Awesome. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Sadia. Thank you all for being here today. If you've joined us before, welcome back. If this is your first time here, allow me to introduce Tech for Palestine. Tech for Palestine is a project incubator and a community of communities designed to support early stage projects to scale. And part of our growing mission is to also help develop communities of impact with our dedicated volunteers and people like you who show up to support our initiatives online and in person. Before we dive in, just a quick few housekeeping rules. This webinar is being streamed to our platforms. We are also recording, so please be mindful of what you share. But of course, please use the chat to leave any comments you have, any questions you have. If you want to drop where you're from, where you're joining us from, that would be great. I'm joining from Dallas today in the United States. We'll do our best today to get to as many of the questions as we can. I'll try to read through the chat as the conversation is ongoing, and if the questions kind of align with the conversation we're having, I'll try to incorporate it, and then I'll try to leave some time at the end as well to ask questions. And we also ask that you try to stay muted at all times, and that'll just help us provide the best experience for everyone. To start us off, I want to give a little bit of context as to why we're having this conversation today and kind of give a background on why we're talking about crypto and the importance of it, specifically in the context of Gaza. So since October of 23, Israel has prevented new banknotes from entering Gaza, and the cash in circulation has become severely deteriorated and slowly more obsolete. This is also because most of the banks in Gaza were destroyed, and those still operating today, if any, have no access to new cash. On top of that, according to the World Bank, as of last year, only 2 ATMs out of the 94 were functioning, and so we can only assume that this condition has worsened. Further, the UN Conference on Trade and Development warned that Gaza was going through the fastest and most damaging economic collapse ever recorded, with the economy having lost 87% of its pre-war value. In 2024, the same conference reported that Gaza's GDP per capita fell to 161 US dollars, and inflation rose 238%, pushing all 2.3 million of its residents below the poverty line. This crisis impacted every person trying to access cash, get their salaries, obtain money sent by people abroad, access their own savings, or withdraw money from banks for any other reason. And the human cost of this is devastating. I want to read a portion of an article written by a Palestinian journalist, Hani Kammoud, who wrote in Al Jazeera about this reality. And he describes it really starkly, and I want to share a little bit from it. He says, "This is what shopping, quote unquote, in Gaza looks like right now. Trade what you've got. A kilo of lentils for 2 kilos of flour, a bottle of bleach for some rice, a baby's jacket for several onions. This is not a throwback to simpler times. This is what happens when systems disappear, when money dies, when families are forced to sacrifice their own dignity for survival. Cutting off Gaza's money is part of a larger siege. There's no need to fire a bullet to destroy a people. Simply deny them the ability to live. You can't pay for bread, for water, for medicine, so how do you sustain life?" End quote. In the face of this crisis, technology offers us new possibilities. Today, we'll be hearing from our guests to learn about crypto and how this technology has the potential to be a solution in a time of crisis in Gaza. But it is obviously not the solution to the overall crisis, upending the lives of so many people. Today, we hope our discussion can inspire conversation and spread knowledge, motivate us to think differently about the issues that we are hearing about, and figure out ways to contribute to these problems in our own way. By the end of the conversation, we should also know how to send money to Gaza via crypto and how crypto is operating in Gaza today. Joining us today from Gaza is Mohamed. Mohamed is a front-end developer currently working for Natsoft, along with numerous impressive freelance projects, and is a TAP mentor working with youths across the region to help nurture tech talent. Mohamed is also a member of the Tech for Palestine community, where his project idea, SahlPay, was accepted by the incubator. Also joining us from Berlin, Germany is Joshua. Joshua is the author of Blockchain Radicals: How Capitalism Ruined Crypto and How to Fix It. a podcaster and co-founder of Bread Cooperative, a non-for-profit collective that builds tools and applications for solidarity finance using crypto rails. He is currently a fellow at the Institute for the Cooperative Digital Economy, where he researches cooperative digital infrastructures and crypto ecosystem dynamics. I want to thank them all for joining today, and I want to begin by inviting both Mohamed and Joshua to tell us a little bit about themselves. I can start with Mohamed here. Mohamed, can you just tell us a little bit about your own background? Tell us about SahlPay, what motivated you to start SahlPay and apply for the Tech for Palestine incubator? And can you just tell us like what your vision for SahlPay is?
Hey Sadia, hey everyone. Thanks you for the nice introduction you have did. So what is SahlPay? SahlPay is financial, a fintech initiative from Ghana. I have worked on it after I got fired from a company I used to work with during the genocide because I didn't have an ability to receive my salary. So I have faced a lot of issues and problems in receiving my salary. So I start searching about what is my options and what's the alternative of the banking system. By the way, it was broken in the war. I have tried a lot of platforms and ways, but it's high fees, and I got banned from PayPal because my account is Palestinian and it's blocked in Palestine. I didn't found any option either than using a crypto, and this was plays a key role for me. And I have initiated a wallet and started receiving my salary and making living. And yeah, it was a solution for me. After that, I have helped a lot of my friends and colleagues here in Gaza to receive their payments and telling them about my solution. And I found it's really something we can rely on. And I have thinking why we don't making something we can rely on the banking system and the restricted services we are blocked in, and creating and innovate something to Palestinian and to us. And from here, the idea came using the crypto and blockchain to overcome these issues.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. So it came from a place of obviously necessity, and now you submitted your idea into the incubator, and then of course we'll talk about it some more. And then Joshua, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well in your own words, what you do, what the Bread Cooperative, and with your own work as well?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for the introduction, and yeah, super happy to be here with Mohamed to talk about this. Yeah, for me, I've been working and been a part of the crypto and blockchain space for probably at least 7 years or so now, and have my main focus in being in this space was kind of the intersection between progressive politics and cryptocurrency, which can sound like a very weird thing for some people who may only hear about cryptocurrency from mainstream media or whatever else, where often the main thing that is focused on are its problems, and there are plenty of problems, no doubt. But I think what that has kind of in turn done, and what I kind of dedicate a lot of my work to, is kind of it prevents people from seeing the possibility of using it for different political reasons or economic reasons, rather than using it just for a casino. It's also something for better or worse, is like what Mohamed said, a really good tool for getting around the banking system, actually. So kind of, I think the mistake that people maybe sometimes think about or make when it comes to the cryptocurrency world is they think of it solely as kind of like a replacement of the banking or financial system. But actually, my argument and what I love in the book as well is that it's different than the current monetary system. It's not meant to replace money necessarily as we know it, I would say, but it's meant to be, I think, it's something different. And because it is different is what gives us this affordance and ability to get around these situations, like where, economic sanctions and financial sanctions in different places around the world. And so, being in Berlin, one of the things that may surprise people is, in spite of the repression of the German government and police, there actually is a lot of Palestinian solidarity movements in Berlin. And there is a lot of people who do fundraisers, and they collect money and they try and funnel that money to families that they're sponsoring. And what I was finding out, talking to a lot of these people who were doing this type of work on the ground, is that they were having a lot of issues with and getting that money from in one state, either in cash or like payments into their PayPal, whatever else, and getting that in the hands of people who are in Gaza, because when they tried to do normal bank transfers, it would either get stalled, it just wouldn't get through, it would get rejected, and their bank account would get blocked. And so like there's all these different issues trying to go through the corporate banking system that just prevent or like seriously slow down the ability for money to move into bank accounts. So cryptocurrency, I was just being the role that I have been in, or the space that I've been in, I realized I kind of had this, I could play this role of helping people connect people to send cryptocurrency to the families that are sponsoring in Gaza. So that's kind of what a lot of my work in that space has been doing. And I published a video and a guide to help people to be able to navigate cryptocurrency so that they can continue doing this work and get it to the people in Gaza.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think you made a great distinction there. It's like it's not a replacement of the traditional banking system, but a strong alternative. And it's obviously still being developed, and people have to like adapt to it, learn about it. I think when you mentioned how it's kind of talked about in the mainstream, that's also important, because for someone like me, that's kind of where I would get my exposure from. I mean, now I can say that I have a different exposure to it, but from hearing about it, I don't actually learn about it though. I just hear about what it does, and it's sometimes just associated with certain groups of people, like usually, especially in the United States, it's more associated with more like right-wing thinking people, or like people who represent that school of thought. And then the way it's presented is also very different. So can you give us a kind of clarifying statement or proposal about like how crypto actually functions, and like can you break down some of the terminology so that we can understand like how it operates, and like when someone is saying I'm sending money via crypto, like what that actually means?
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll give some of the basic terminology or words and concepts. So cryptocurrency, you can take a step back. A cryptocurrency is generally built on top of what's called a blockchain. And a blockchain is just a type of database. It's a type of technical infrastructure that facilitates the movement of cryptocurrency. So oftentimes those, when you hear maybe the term Bitcoin or these other cryptocurrencies, people will they'll kind of use it interchangeably, in the sense they'll talk about cryptocurrency as a system, or they'll talk about it as this speculative asset, this token. So there's kind of this sometimes confusion that actually there are two different things. There is the technical infrastructure that facilitates the actual movements of cryptocurrency, and then there's the cryptocurrency itself. So there's for example, the Bitcoin blockchain, and then there's Bitcoin the asset, which is fluctuating in price.
Okay.
Various reasons. In the case of getting money into Gaza, generally I never advise using Bitcoin really, or it's kind of like I think it makes a lot more sense to use things called stable coins. You may have heard as well, which are basically cryptocurrencies that are pegged to the dollar. or they can be pegged to the euro. They're pegged to something, but 90% of the time when people talk about stablecoins, they're talking about US dollar peg.
Okay.
And so that's usually the assets that is being sent from someone like, for example, us in Berlin to family we're sponsoring in Gaza. And generally, so there can be kind of one thing to keep in mind is sometimes you'll hear this term the blockchain. We're using the blockchain, but there's actually many different blockchains. And it's important to kind of know which one you're using to make sure that you're sending the right cryptocurrency through it. So like you can think of maybe in Europe, for example, we have SEPA, which is like the payment rails for European banking, where you send money transfer via the SEPA payment rails. In the US, there's a separate system. There's MasterCard, there's Visa. These are all different payment rails. So you can think of a blockchain as almost like different payment rails in which many different things can be on top of it. Like Visa, MasterCard, they can do dollars, they can do euros. They can do many different currencies. The difference with the blockchain is that you have kind of like I don't know, like an infinite amount of potential currencies. Often many of them are cryptocurrency tokens that are speculative, but often they're also stable coins. So yeah, I think having if you're going to be sending cryptocurrency to someone, you kind of got to know the blockchain that they want to receive it on and the currency that they want to receive.
Okay. That makes sense.
Some of the
Okay. And then if you were to compare this to something like, if I'm like familiar with something like Western Union, and then there's like some sort of transaction fee, does that same process exist when you're sending money via crypto?
Yeah, so there is generally a transaction fee, yes. But the fees are generally significantly cheaper than Western. I mean, Western Union is like crazy expensive, generally.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like the difference between, I don't know, I mean, Western Union, I haven't used it in a long time, so I'm not really sure how much exactly it is now, but we're talking about pennies or less to send money using crypto, maybe a few pennies in some, but comparatively super cheap.
Okay. Mohamed, from your perspective, given that Gazans had to obviously adapt to what was happening, and what does it look like for you to adopt crypto in Gaza? Like for someone from this perspective, I'm thinking like I wouldn't know what to do. So what was that like when you're having to transition and like adopt something new like crypto? Was it new, or was it something that like people were more easily able to adapt, or was it, can you tell us kind of like what that transition looks like?
Actually, it was something really existed before, but not everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
The traders here, and I mean by traders who can buy goods from Israel and from Egypt, because we have a border with those two, and they paying for for their goods on USDT, because it's reliable, and there is a lot of people here knows about crypto and stable coins especially, and this knowledge from the people in Gaza has like expanded during the war. They know how to receive, how they can open a wallet, how they can exchange it with cash or to a bank account. So we have like a good experience from the people, and that's lets me like yeah, everyone knows how to deal with crypto. There is a little of people like don't know what to do with crypto, but yeah, those like the major the majority is knowing how to deal with crypto.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also read that, you know, merchants, people in markets, or like people buying, selling goods, people are receiving salaries, people just trying to buy everyday items at some point, you know, had no other option. There was no cash. They weren't getting their salaries. Like they couldn't access their bank accounts. So there was a period of time where obviously maybe crypto wasn't totally active. And now I'm reading that the change has kind of happened where now even stores are accepting like digital payments via crypto. Do you see that happening in reality every day? Like, is that something that's normal now to just tap your phone and pay via crypto?
For crypto dealing in Gaza, we can't like buying something from the market directly using. We can like swap from a crypto to banking account, and doing this, there is a lot of brokers, and in the black markets, we can exchange the stable coins or the crypto assets into a cash, or the best choice now is to a bank account, and we can like paying in these markets and shops via cards. But lately, I found a way that there is an application called Red to Pay. He is like providing a virtual card equivalent to Visa, and it's like accepting USDT. So if you can like put some USDT or crypto assets in it and getting this Visa, you can buy easily from any markets. Have a Bank of Palestine point of sales, like you know, these small devices when you are like hitting the QR, and it's worked and functioned 100%, and I think it's needs time to being like scaling more and more between the people here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Joshua, I keep hearing like USDT. I've seen this before. Are there is that like the form of currency that is you're saying that people should be sending crypto in?
It kind of is context dependent. It doesn't make too much of a difference from what I've seen so far, at least with the families that we've sponsored. USDT, so also called Tether, is probably the most popular cryptocurrency for like sending money between people using crypto in, I think, in a lot of the Middle East, including Gaza. But it doesn't have to be the only one that you use. So there's like a couple of options. I generally propose people to use the Ethereum blockchain because it's a little bit more flexible as far as, and like tooling is a little bit more available. However, there is like historically in the Middle East, Tether on a blockchain called Tron has like this already existing system in place, and like people already know it and are familiar with it over these many years. So it is a little bit of kind of like trying to convince people and educate people about other options. The main thing is like if we want to send money more easily to people in Gaza, generally Ethereum is a little bit easier, but there's always ways to figure it out. If you have cryptocurrency and the other person has a cryptocurrency wallet, there is 99.9% of the time probably a way to get that money from you to them. You just kind of gotta figure out what are the tools available.
Okay. And then in terms of like security and like people feeling safe sending money, and like I know like know your customer is a thing and that's a concept, and like is that kind of security something that people can feel comfortable sending money via crypto using apps and all that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something you definitely want to know for yourself, what you feel comfortable with and what what your risk profile is, maybe you can say. There are ways to get cryptocurrency where there's a lot less of a link to you.
Yeah.
like I've read stories about people getting in trouble or getting caught for sending cryptocurrency because there was some, their identity was found, but they were part of a larger organization that was, they were accused of something. In my personal experience, I haven't had any issues with that. But I do know some other people who have had like mainly issues with, they've had way more issues with like trying to get a money out of a chuft or like a GoFundMe account or something, like significantly more than they've had necessarily with just sending cryptocurrency. But so, yeah, I think, you know, you like the choices are kind of like either you find a solution that fits the kind of processes that you are most familiar with to purchase cryptocurrency that will involve KYC.
Yeah.
Or you go maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone as far as like the process will just be a little bit different in how you purchase the asset. But you will have like more privacy. So I think it's part of like by understanding a little bit of what's happening in the background when you're making these purchases, you can like understand like the series of steps you should take if you really want to protect your privacy.
Yeah.
If you really need to purchase it. But yeah, those are I sent the video in, at least in the Zoom chats, which is the one that I did on YouTube, where I kind of explain some of these options to do it.
So just like anything else, that's like before you send money, you should verify who you're sending it to, making sure like the address is correct, making sure that like you're in, like you've communicated with the person that you're sending to, like doing the basic checks on your end, and then the platforms themselves are secure and like they are built with security in mind, just like any other system. So if you had to summarize maybe like steps that people can take away of like, if I'm trying to send money today, what would that look like? What would I need to do? I know you said it in your video too, which I encourage everyone to watch. But if you could just summarize that for us.
Yeah. So, well, the thing is that there's always a couple of different options, right? Like there's the if you want to go the option, if you're someone that is like, I don't want to learn anything about cryptocurrency, I refuse to learn, I just know that I have to use it, then you could do something like a Simple Swap is like one platform that we've used quite a bit, but it may ask you for KYC, so you may ask you for like personal identifying information. That process is simply, put in your credit card number, however you want to purchase it, and you put the address, and of course, be sure that the person that you're sending it to, they know which blockchain it is, which asset they should receive, so that you match that when you make a purchase. On the other side, I think if you want to be a little bit more robust and a little bit more, have a little bit more maybe privacy, but also like flexibility, because part of the thing is the real risk where you'll get blocked is at these certain centralized choke points, and those centralized choke points are your bank account, especially. Any sort of account on some sort of platform is a choke point. If you have an account on a centralized exchange, like a cryptocurrency exchange like Binance or Coinbase or like one of these, and that's a centralized choke point. So one thing I didn't really get into that much, but I think is important to realize is, I can at least describe the differences. To go into the technical reasons maybe a little bit too long, but when you're engaging in the crypto world, you have a different relationship with your account and your identity, in the sense that you have the ability to, like, you have control over your account, and then you can move that account wherever you want. This is like the concept of the wallet. Like, you have a wallet where you put assets in there, and then you can go from application to application with your assets to different places, versus like maybe having a particular account with a service. And so what that means is you can create a little bit more resilience in like a system of different types of just like your own wallets, or like wallets with maybe a group that you're doing fundraising in with as well, so that you can store money there and then move it whenever it's time for it to be moved. So yeah, so it kind of half depends on how you're receiving money. If you're doing fundraising, like the ideal situation, but it's really difficult to convince people to do this. The ideal situation is that people are sending you cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
because then you're not, because if everyone is sending to your bank accounts, your bank account is a centralized choke point where either you can't get the money out because you're being suspected of something fishy, or a myriad of different reasons why it could be a problem. You'll ask you, like, where's that income coming from? Like, you have to pay tax on it. So yeah, I might have failed in answering your question and like giving a concrete thing, but those are some of the things to keep in mind. The general thing is, yeah, it's just receiving cryptocurrency in a spot and sending the cryptocurrency with the right address and the right asset that you're sending it to. So there's like some things that are kind of context dependent, but it sounds super simple, but that's basically the general flow.
If you had to recommend an app, I know you did so in your video, would you recommend an app for people to download to send, or has that changed?
So my recommendation, the way that if you want to do the privacy preserving, a little bit more privacy preserving way, the service that I recommend is called peer.xyz. In my video, I refer to it as ZKP2P, but that's because they just did a rebrand.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really interesting service because you can use any neobanking application to purchase cryptocurrency without any additional KYC, without also the neobanking application really knowing about what you're doing so much. Basically, you send a transfer to a random person in the world who is selling cryptocurrency, and then once you prove that you've sent that transaction, then you'll receive the cryptocurrency in the address that you designated. So it's like a way of doing peer-to-peer trading, where often people would meet in person and they would trade cryptocurrency, except here there's a way to do this peer-to-peer trading without needing to meet up in person, like in a digital space. A hard problem to solve, but they kind of solved it.
Okay, makes sense. I sent the name in the chat as well. I would also, again, encourage you guys to watch the video for even more explanation on how it works and what the steps would be, because Joshua breaks it down pretty clearly. And I think it's a great resource to have. So thank you for sharing that. I want to transition a little bit now that we understand like what crypto is, how it operates, how one would send money to Gaza. I want to talk a little bit more about actually building a product, and that's kind of what Mohamed is trying to do with SahlPay, and it's what Joshua has done with Bread Co-op. And so Mohamed, when we spoke before, you had mentioned that you were in the process of building SahlPay out, but you had faced some barriers with that. Actually, don't know if Mohamed had to drop, if he's still with us. I think we might have lost him with internet connection, but I can wait for him to come back and I can switch to Joshua. As this builder of crypto and the research that you do and all the work that you do, are these humanitarian contexts like taken into consideration when you're building something like the Bread Co-op? I mean, your guys' whole like agenda and like what you're built and based off of is very like community oriented, is very collectivist mindset. It shares a lot of themes that a lot of like Eastern cultures, I can say from personal experience, were kind of raised with in terms of like how money is distributed and all those things. I read on your website that one of the concepts that it was based off of was the idea of committees, right? And how in older civilizations, like people would gather money in committees and kind of pull it together, and people would take from that, contribute to it, but also take from it as they needed. And it was a form of banking in a way. So recently I joined my own committee with people in my own community. So I felt like kind of a new transition to adulthood with that. But it was interesting for me to read about that. And I kind of wanted to understand how a concept like this can be applied in these humanitarian contexts. And when this is being built, is that something that's being considered?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, it's something we definitely tried to consider. I think, yeah, I mean, in a particular humanitarian context, there's a lot of context dependency to know exactly what types of schools are available to them, because like, I mean, we live in a world that is like not equal access across different countries and across different regions to different types of services and things like that. But yeah, I mean, what we were inspired by and trying to do is like, rather than I mean, I know maybe not a lot of you guys are in the cryptocurrency industry, but you can probably tell from a distance that a lot of the cryptocurrency industry is really, unfortunately, about kind of like gambling and casino-like type of interactions. And it was something that was like really a shame, and really like, yeah, something that we wanted to move away from, and also prove that something different can be built. And so we looked at history as kind of like the inspiration that, like you said, there's a long history of solidaristic financial and economic arrangements and relationships between people and groups of people in a way that has kind of, it's been forgotten in certain ways and in certain places. And so our inspiration was to try and use use what's already actually going on in many places, and that maybe other places have forgotten, and try to emulate that, and try and see what the technology can bring to people who are engaging in solidaristic economics. So yeah, just to maybe explain a little bit, one of the applications we have is called Solidarity Fund, which is like a mix between a local currency and a credit union. Credit unions and cooperative banks are always historically kind of financial institutions that grew out of already existing like mutual aid financial practices, that then just created an institution that was meant for certain populations that maybe were not serviced by either institutional finance, or it simply didn't exist in their region. But what it meant is that by doing that, you were able to make investments and move money and economic resources in a way that benefited the collective as a whole, rather than kind of siphoning off, a lot of that wealth to the top, to the owners of the banks, or to wherever they exist, which is kind of the case in, much of the United States, where big banks are like a lot of them are just based in New York City, for example. Like there aren't too many, local branches of banks, credit unions, and cooperative banks. I mean, they exist, but it's really much smaller than the larger financial system. And so, like, their priorities at Wells Fargo, like, they're not going to care about your local community and like where financial resources are put and allocated. And so using cryptocurrency, which allows a much more granular expressivity of like the movement of financial assets and like computation of those assets, was something that we really wanted to explore. And so, yeah, the Solidarity Fund allows us to collect stable coins that then we earn interest on using decentralized finance. And as a holder of the bread token, which is what you get whenever you give stable coins, then you get voting power on how the interest that's generated gets distributed amongst member projects. So it's in a way that a credit union would decide to make investments here and there, except in our case, we're not making investments, it's just more like grants. And then we have another application called Stack that we've been building that's kind of a saving circle implementation using cryptocurrency rails. Saving circle is kind of one of these examples of solidarity financial arrangements that are very common in, I mean, basically much around the world besides the global north in many respects. So yeah, this is something that basically we've been building and trying to instill relationships of solidarity rather than relationships of like extraction in much of the financial and tech world, to prove that an alternative is possible.
Very cool. So it's very much based in like community oriented. Everyone gets a piece of the pie, and then everyone also contributes to the bigger pie, and everyone gets to also benefit from it. That would be an ideal situation. So hopefully we see the growth from that in the near future as well. Mohamed, thank you for rejoining. I just had switched to Joshua. So Joshua was just explaining to us a little bit about Solidarity Finance and how that is operating at the Bread Cooperative. But what I was asking you before was that you were trying to build SahlPay and have this be a crypto platform for freelancers in Gaza, but you had been facing some issues getting it started. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of barriers you're facing? And maybe there's some potential people out here who are listening, or maybe even potential collaborations or some guidance that you can receive with the barriers that you're facing.
Yeah. And the various issues I'm facing right now is regulation due to registration the company officially in Palestine. I have contacted with a lot of people here and in West Bank, but always returning the same answer to me. We cannot register new companies in Gaza. Come here in West Bank and we can doing it for you. I have tried a different way of registering the SahlPay as an official company in Palestine by collaborate with someone in West Bank, and he's registering the company in his name, because I can't go outside Gaza right now and doing these things. But it's still bending and refusing being filled in this cycle since 3 or 4 months. It's required a lot of legal things to do and papers, and it's very hard. And I cannot start it without this legal approval, because the services I want to use to swapping from the cards and the money to crypto assets is requiring a legal company and banking accounts and all these legal things. So yeah, I'm still trying to find a way how we can pushing this and making it sooner.
Yeah, that makes sense. So once hopefully you're able to get past this issue and establish your business, what would be your, I guess, next step? Is there something that you already have going? You're in terms of actually building the app? Are you looking for people to help build it? What would be your next step following once the business is able to be?
Actually, we have a design for the MVP, and we have a clear overview on how the platform will work and how will users journey will be, and all these technical things are done, and we just waiting to confirm the legal issues and starting building the MVP. Actually, I'm a software engineer, so it's the building. It's the easiest part for me, and the team also. But yeah, I hope this issue gonna be solved in the coming days, because the situation here is not going to be better. It's worse day after day after day, and the cash nearly gone. There is no banks. We rely completely on Bank of Palestine.
I think we lost Mohamed again due to the internet, as we just talking about. So hopefully he's going to join us again soon. But I've spoken to Mohamed before, and so he shared the same issue with the legal issues and actually establishing it as a business. But as he was saying, he is a software engineer, so even the technical part isn't too difficult for him. But unfortunately, with all the barriers placed on Palestinians, it's hard to even just get started. But hopefully that, as he was saying, it can be established in the next few months, hopefully. And he can get started, because there's obviously a need in Gaza for something like SahlPay, which is meant to operate for freelancers, which Mohamed is also working as a freelancer and helps people in his community receive payments that way too. I was going to ask both of you, in the next, I would say 2 to 5 years ahead, like what do you hope to see in terms of crypto adoption and how it grows to like more, I guess, general use, and people become more knowledgeable about it and it's used in different contexts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the things for me is definitely, I hope it kind of leads to more awareness and education about what our options are when it comes to our own financial health, and taking it seriously, not as something that is purely like on the individual, like as only upon yourself to save money and like, make sure you save enough money and so that you can retire in 40 years or whatever, but instead is something that is where we recognize the similarities that we have together, and like and recognize that commitments with each other are like can be powerful and are powerful and can be something that can create alternatives than what the extractive version of finance that we have today is currently offering us, and that it is also a better system and like a better way of committing to one another economically. I think we've been kind of, for a lot of people, and myself included, have grown up with the idea that like it's on you as the individual to like, and then you got to look for the best deals with banks and with like credit card companies and whatever else to try and make sure that you're able to get your little bit of slice of the economy so that you don't have to worry financially for the rest of your life, whether or not you're going to make it. But instead that we can create mutualistic systems where we actually reduce the reliance on money kind of broadly, by building these relationships of solidarity with one another. And cryptocurrency is just one of those tools for like helping facilitate that and helping do that in a way that is across time and space because of the digital nature of it. And so we can still have a lot of these maybe conveniences that we have today with digital banking and digital applications, while still retaining the control that is sorely due to everyone, from a lot of these types of institutions. So it's a little bit abstract, but I think having, so maybe in a more simpler way, is kind of just like awareness and education and like confidence in being able to use these tools in the coming years. And I see it as like very viable, or like I see it as one tool, especially when it comes to the Palestinian cause. I don't want to speak too much for it, but I would like to think that it's a really interesting tool for Palestinians to also get around just the financial sanctions of Israel.
Yeah. I think what we've gathered today is that it's not a replacement, but an alternative option. I think in places like the US, where we have so many other options available to us, and like a banking system that kind of runs our society and our world, it's might be a little more of a foreign concept for us to adopt such things, and change the way that we think about money and the way we use it and the way we share it and the way we invest it and all those things. But it's nice to know that crypto, and the way that you've explained it today, exists, and it's operating in different parts of the world for so many different use cases and so many necessary use cases. So imagine if it didn't exist, what would happen? I would say that the Bread Co-op website is a great place for everyone to kind of like visit and check out. I'm going to share the links here in a moment. Is that something that we could buy crypto or like use crypto? What you were mentioning, like, is it called bread coin? No.
Yeah, there is the bread token. Yeah,
Bread token. Thank you.
Yeah. It is, so the services that we provide is more, so you could use, so what we have on our website, for example, is a way to go straight to here.xyz to onboard and buy some cryptocurrency. But right now, you still need to have your own cryptocurrency wallet. So I would recommend, there's a service or a specific wallet that I like called Rabby, Rabby. It's an Ethereum crypto wallet if people are interested in trying to dig into it. But yeah, the kind of purpose of what we've done, what we've built, is to be able to just show how, how we can do solidarity finance in a way that's also scalable. Is kind of the thing that we try to see. So I mean, if you take the time to look through the website, you can see how it works. It'll require a little bit of onboarding if you don't already have any cryptocurrency or any crypto wallet. But once you do have it, and I think the Solidarity Fund, for example, is a good application where if you want to learn about cryptocurrency more and use it in ways without having to engage in the speculative gambling side of cryptocurrency. This is like a safer place where you're not going to like accidentally lose a bunch of money because the price dropped.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I've shared the links as well, so for everyone to check out. I don't see any more questions. If anyone has any more questions, somebody had asked about donating to Mohamed. I don't have a link or anything. I don't know if he's asking for donations either, but I have shared his LinkedIn, Joshua's LinkedIn, and I've shared the Bread Co-op website, the Blockchain Socialist website, where Joshua shares his own thoughts and podcast and a lot of cool information. And then I've also shared the video link for sending sending crypto to Gaza. So if you guys want to check those links out, and then if you have any other questions, please feel free to send them. I'll just close off today with a quick note here. We've heard from both Joshua and Mohamed. Unfortunately, Mohamed had to drop, I'm assuming due to the internet connection issues. But I really want to thank both of you for joining us. We've learned about the basics of crypto, how it operates, how it can be used via digital wallets, and what the use cases in Gaza look like specifically. We also gained perspective on how this actually operates on the ground in Gaza. And we heard from Mohamed about the importance of having this alternate solutions as like a survival tool, as it's become a part of their daily life. To be clear, we are by no means selling crypto as like the solution for the problems that we've heard about today, but it is a response to an issue, right? And while we'll be seeing more of it as people continue to innovate and use it in under occupation, under all kinds of circumstances, this isn't by any means a total solution to the crisis that's happening in Gaza. The decimation of the banking system is purposeful, it's ongoing, and the occupiers and actors who facilitate this ongoing violation have been legitimized by the societies that we live in. But here's what I know: when we feel powerless, we often forget the power that we actually have. And learning something new like we have today, donating to a family or trusted organization, volunteering your time, or using an ethical alternative, these don't require much of us, but our collective power has our collective action has the power to have impact. And so I want to thank everyone once again for tuning in today. And I encourage you to check out the links that have been shared. Follow the work that Joshua is doing, follow the work that Mohamed's doing on LinkedIn, and we encourage you guys to follow Tech for Palestine as well and keep up with the work that we're doing. We hope to continue to be able to put on these kinds of informational webinars and meet cool people like Joshua and Mohamed who can inform us about topics that we otherwise might not hear about. But yeah, thank you all so much. And we hope to see you on the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Joshua. Thanks, Mohamed. We're gonna end the call in just a minute, okay?
Thanks, Sadias. Thanks for having me, and I'm sorry for like internet disrupt. Like it's out of my hand. Like
no, that's okay. That's okay. You answered all the questions perfectly. Everyone heard all the important points that you made, and I've shared your LinkedIn as well. So if anyone wants to reach out to you or connect with you on LinkedIn, they can do that too.
Thanks, Sadia. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.